I sure wish this camera had a zoom. I wish this camera had a zoom.
In the midst of social distancing and business lockdowns, a freelance writer and a graphic artist bought a bus, converted it into a tiny home on wheels, and moved out of our 4-bedroom house. 1 year later, we downsized to a Chevy Express. Now we travel between Texas and Pennsylvania from April through November while exploring small towns with rich histories. In the winter, we hunker down in Texas in our schoolie and dream of our next big trip.
We're Alan and Teresa.
And we're rolling with our nomies.
So we're standing here in Canton, Texas, and we're going to walk the town here. We got a walking tour of the city and the historic district here. They got some really cool stuff. We just walked through town. Really cool stuff here. Now, a while back, we did the Canton Flea Market, if you remember.
Yeah, we'll link to it up here somewhere.
Yeah, and that was a cool thing, but we didn't do the historic district and the downtown area, and so we came back just to do that today, and we invite you to follow us around and see what Canton, Texas has to offer. I'm really excited to talk about the history of this town and show you what they got. Alright, so we're in Banzant County. Canton is the county seat of Banzant County, named after Isaac Van Zandt, who was born in 1813.
Okay, the placard that we were just looking at is Van Zandt and his wife.
That's his wife, right. He and his wife are in that monument right there beside us. Now, Isaac Van Zandt was born in Tennessee, I guess, or he lived in Tennessee and Mississippi until he moved to Texas, and then he settled here. He became a congressman. But in 1842, Sam Houston, who was the president of Texas at the time, and Van Zandt was a huge supporter of Houston, so Houston appointed Van Zandt to the position of charge d'affaires to the United States, and so basically he was like an ambassador to the U.S. from the nation of Texas at the time, and so they negotiated the U.S. treaty that made Texas a part of the United States, and so Van Zandt was a part of that, actually a key part of that, and he actually signed the annexation agreement along with others in the state, and U.S. Secretary of State John C. Calhoun, who was in Congress at the time and a Southerner, and a huge proponent of states' rights. And so this was a big deal. Texas became part of the United States, and Isaac Van Zandt was a huge part of that effort.
Okay. He ran for Texas governor too.
Did he win?
No, instead he was campaigning in Houston and caught yellow fever, and he died in 1847, October 11th.
Shoot, in these days and age, people die and they win elections.
I know, right? That's scary.
Too bad he didn't know about that.
I mean, he could have won.
Just born in the wrong time, I guess.
Right.
Let's see what else is. So we're standing in front of the courthouse.
Look, I'm telling y'all, this is one of the ugliest courthouses in the state of Texas.
It still doesn't beat Kaufman, in my opinion.
I don't know about that. I think Kaufman at least has trees to redeem itself.
They got a really cool sign here, though. It says Banzant County is debt-free.
I don't know what that means.
It means they've got no debt.
I figured that out. That's what debt-free means.
Alright, so Orrin Milo Roberts, born South Carolina, born Alabama legislator, came to San Augustine, Texas in 1841. and he was president of the Secession Convention in 1861. He served in the served as a colonel in the 11th Regiment Texas Infantry, and after the war,
he was a state Supreme Court judge, and he made the 1877 ruling that ended the Banzant County seat war.
So let's find out about that, because there's a plaque over here about that.
Evidently, there was some disagreement as to where the county seat's going to be, but Texas has a law that says it's got to be in the center of the state.
Cadwell Walton Rains came to Texas in 1858. He served in the Texas Cavalry Regiment in the Civil War. He was a teacher in New Braunfels and a lawyer in Canton. And a Banzant judge. He played a major role in the infamous county seat war of 1877. Published newspapers at Wills Point, Mineola, and Quitman. And then he became a Wood County judge and appointed state librarian. He rebuilt the neglected state library.
Wait. He was appointed state librarian in 1891 by his friend, Governor James Stephen Hall.
That boss hog?
It might have been a relation, but I wonder if he'd have been appointed state librarian if it hadn't been for his friendship.
That's a good question. You know, I really want to find out about that infamous county seat war, though.
Well, let's go up here and check out this one.
There's another plaque on the courthouse.
And there's one in front of the courthouse. One of them might tell you about that Banzant County war. No.
So in 1894, Banzant County Commissioner's Court approved construction of a new Brit Courthouse right here where we're standing, and it was built between 1894 and 1896. It replaced a frame courthouse that had served the county seat since shortly after the Civil War. And that's pretty cool. Features a 3-story main structure and a 6-story central tower with a copper eagle statue at the top. The building was torn down in the 1930s.
And they rebuilt it with this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what we got up here.
This was going to tell us about the ugly courthouse.
1937, folks, with Public Works Administration funds. The 6th building to serve as the Banzant County Courthouse. And according to local lore, Commissioner's Court decreed that a modern courthouse should be erected in order to provide jobs for men of the county during the Depression era. The stepped mast edifice with cast stone veneer walls features Art Deco and Art Modern details and is noteworthy for its vertical emphasis and its association with the architectural firm of Volker and Dixie.
The Wichita Falls and Houston-based firm designed several West Texas courthouses in this style. Okay, so it's probably not the ugliest one in Texas, but
it's got a few brothers.
Yeah, it's in the running.
I wonder if they did Kaufman's. Do you remember who did Kaufman's?
No, I don't. I do not. It is an ugly courthouse, but there's a whole bunch more hysterical markers around this courthouse too. Right. Okay. I need the map tells us when he built these buildings.
Yeah. This was built in 1892. It's called the G.W. Tull Building, and it's named after George Washington Tull. He's one of the early and most successful merchants in Canton. Came from Georgia, where he was born.
To Alabama, Mississippi, and then Tennessee.
Right, and all of that before he came to Texas. In 1852, he moved to Texas and then traveled to California in hopes of striking gold. But he came back to Canton in 1858 with his savings and partnered with William B. Moore to start a mercantile business on the courthouse square. It was known as Our House in 1860. Toll bought Moore's stake and became sole owner, served as a Confederate Army private during the Civil War, returned to operate his store for more than 50 years until he died.
He shepherded the development of Canton in its formative years. His store was the anchor of the commercial district and outlasted many other businesses. In 1872, after Banzant County commissioners deemed all bids for a new courthouse insufficient, the court contracted with Toll to build the new courthouse.
Then reimbursed.
1893.
So that's the one we're talking about. And the
Yeah.
one next to it was built the same year. Joseph Andrews built this building as a hardware store.
Okay.
So that's the Hodges Building, and then the brick building was the hardware
So
store.
this one was the drugstore, and then right next to it here is the hardware store.
And
I
then
like
next
those
to
doors.
That one was the General Use Building, also built in 1893.
Okay, so this whole block was built in the same year.
Well, 1892, the first three, and then
Right.
these three in 1893.
Right, okay. Oh, really? It's a park? Right. It's got little restrooms down there, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're porta pots, but it's got a cute little
So
restaurant
this is
sign.
a cute little park. It's a city park. Got a statue. It's called the Trade. I really like this. It was sculpted in 1998 by Leon Stutz and Laura Lee Small.
Okay. Well, the park was established in 2018.
Yep, Canton Town Square Park is what that is.
It used to be a building site, but evidently the building came down at some point. James and Jarvis, if you see, the step for the original building is still there. But in Texas, these sunshades are priceless because, 10,000 degrees.
So here's the Tolles building. It was built in 1893 by Captain Thomas J. Tolles, who was a Confederate veteran, and he went on to be the county sheriff, tax collector, and a state representative. And during the county seat war in 1877, he led Canton citizens to Wills Point in protest of the removal of the county seat from Canton. Well, that's interesting. So
where were they going to put it?
I'm guessing Wills Point, maybe?
Maybe.
So we got to find out about that. I'm hoping that something in town here is going to tell us about this county seat war.
Tolles came to Banzant County at the age of 14. Dying in 1909, he is buried in the Canton City Cemetery.
In front of a salon, a pretty building, but this site is the site of the Dixie Hotel. In September 1915, the Canton Herald announced plans for a new hotel along the Dixie Highway and gave the hotel its name, and a prime location to attract travelers and residents. It included 2 full floors with a wraparound gallery, porch, dormer windows, and a half floor in the attic. Sheriff John Kellis, the owner and contractor, sold the hotel for $2,750 to Mrs. A.R. Mom and her daughter, Mamie, in 1916. Mamie became the hotel manager and in 1919 oversaw construction of a 2-story annex. So evidently the Dixie Hotel became a famous hotel all around Texas and probably a lot of the states.
For 85 cents on weekdays or $1 on Sundays, the customer could eat all he wanted. U.S. Senator Lyndon B. Johnson arrived by helicopter to sample some of
Arana Goods cooking. So it had public rooms, public dining rooms, and private rooms.
Yeah, it had 2 dining rooms, one public and one private. The private room was used by juries during long trials. The hotel was also visited by politicians, businessmen, and such celebrities as Will Rogers, Clyde Barrow, and Bonnie Parker. When the Van oil field drew hundreds of men and women in the 1920s and 30s, the Dixie was always full, and cots were even placed on the porches to accommodate all the people.
Wow.
Pure Oil Company contracted with Miss Mamie for a separate office space and living quarters behind the hotel, and Dallas and Fort Worth newspaper articles about the hotel brought motorists to Canton. While residents enjoyed Sunday singings, organization meetings, and Aggie muster at the Dixie, Miss Mamie operated the hotel until May 5th, 1954, the day she died. The Dixie closed for good that night. She died, and so did the Dixie.
Wow. Okay, so these 2 buildings here, the gray one and Val's Restaurant, were both built in 1921 by R.P. McBride. The restaurant was used as Ross Auto Supply. Now, next to that one, that was the Masonic Lodge, number 141, built in 1920, and it was used as Liberty Hardware and Furniture.
Awesome. It's not the prettiest of Masonic temples that we've seen.
No, but it probably would have been more impressive at the time it was built.
Nah, it's still not going to be the prettiest one we've seen.
Alright, you gotta love a building known as the Kickin' Mule.
That's a restaurant, not a building.
It's a restaurant, and it's called the Kickin' Mule. And then the building was built in 1918 as a dry goods and grocery store. And then next to that one,
on the corner,
the one on the corner, Jacob J. Utz built the Palace Drug Store in 1921.
Well, that one has a historical marker in front of it, so let's go see what it says.
Now it's housed by the Canton Herald.
Right. But it has a historical marker.
Let's go see what that historical marker says.
We just all kinds of jaywalking. Oh, it's about the Canton Herald.
I just have a thing for small town newspapers. Maybe because I was the editor of one, but
maybe. I don't know.
I think
you're partial.
I really have a thing for them. The Canton Herald has been in continuous operation since 1882. Ellis Campbell, publisher of the Wills Point Chronicle, purchased the Herald in 1915. He and his wife, Mary Jane, built a family publishing business that eventually extended into several generations. Operating from offices right here at this site and printing facilities in Wills Point, the newspaper has played an active role in the community for over a century, keeping citizens informed of local news events.
And they published the Canton Herald, the Banzant News, Will Point Chronicle, Van Banner, the Quinlan Tawakoni News, and the Canton Guide.
Nice. I love small town newspapers.
But they got to fix their roof.
Yeah, they're working on it.
Their awning.
They are working on it. G.M. Hilliard built a family use building in 1896. Uses include a saloon, general mercantile store, funeral services, and now it's a furniture store. It's the longest running family business in Canton, Texas.
And
next to that was the first, so we got that building, and that's including all three of these buildings. evidently they were all built at the same time, and they've all been built for different uses. All right, so now it's Hilliard's. That whole thing is Hilliard's furniture store.
Actually, Hilliard's has a historical marker over there in front of it, too.
Yeah, we'll check it out here in a second. So next to that is
Box it up.
First National Bank, built in 1915.
Yeah. I can see that being a bank.
I'm looking at this in number 31. It's the one on the end. The white building was the bank.
Right. And what?
So the red one is a part of the history of the Hilliard building.
Okay, so I guess we gotta go see why the Hilliards actually got them a whole marker. Okay, so the Hilliard building.
I've never seen a sign that told you this is parallel parking.
That is might odd, but it is Texas, so not everybody knows it. Yes, I got it. Okay.
I guess some people might not figure that out.
I mean, it is Texas, and they're used to pull-in parking.
Okay, Hilliards of Canton. The Hilliard family has long been identified with the general trade business in Canton. Founded because of its central location, Canton became the seat of Banzant County in 1850. George McIntosh Hilliard came to Texas in the 1870s, and migrated to Grand Saline. In 1896, Hilliard opened a general merchandise store in a rented building south of the courthouse at 207 South Buffalo Street.
We've seen that building.
Yep. And now, after buying out his partners, his sons, Samuel Foster Hilliard and George Homer Hilliard, began to help operate the store. In 1913, business had grown to the point that Hilliard purchased several more lots around downtown.
In 1918, the wooden building that had been at one of the newly purchased lots at 209 South Buffalo was moved with mules in order to make room for a modern new brick building that Hilliard finished constructing in 1919. The back of the building was used as an undertaking business with a funeral parlor, embalming room, and a display area for caskets and other funerary supplies. The front of the store sold farm equipment, hardware, and furniture. By the 1920s, the store at 207 South Buffalo carried dry goods and seamstress supplies brought from Dallas by Homer's wife, Gladys.
In 1925, Samuel Foster Hilliard reopened the 209 South Buffalo store as the S.F. Hilliard store and sold hardware, furniture, and funerary supplies. So the furniture and hardware stores have been a visible presence in downtown Canton for more than 100 years. That's awesome.
Wow. Okay. And that, folks, concludes...
Well, I did not find out about the war over the county seat.
You did not. But you know what? I bet if we go to Will's Point, we can find out about it.
You think? You think I can Google it?
That might... Well, I mean, you could.
All right, so we did find out a little bit about the county seat war, and there was a surveyor. Evidently, it was a surveyor's error. The county seat of Banzant County was located on private property in 1850. An election was called 27 years later because of discontent with the site. On May 28, 1877, County Judge Cadwell Walton Raines ordered court records moved to Wills Point from Canton. Many citizens objected, and about 200 armed men from around Canton marched on Wills Point. Governor R.B. Hubbard assigned militia troops to maintain order, and fighting was averted. The records were returned in October 1878, and the county seat ultimately remained in Canton. Now I want to tell you something else. Very interesting here. During the Reconstruction era, in 1867, some irate citizens seceded from the state of Texas right here in Banzant County, and they called it the Free State of Banzant. They declared war. The volunteers fought and won a battle with General Sheridan's U.S. cavalry, but ultimately they lost the war. Then they were imprisoned in a Canton stockade until they escaped and left the area. Canton County was then occupied by U.S. infantry and cavalry. So there you have it, folks.
Texas has seceded.
Texans love secession.
They seceded from the Union with the South.
Yep, and then
they seceded from themselves.
Folks from Banzant County seceded from the state of Texas.
Only in Texas, folks.
Folks, there's a little history from Canton, Texas. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
We'll see you next week.
Alright, if I don't do this right, then I'm going to be on the bad side of my wife. So y'all bear with me and pray for me. But while you're doing that, don't forget, share us with your friends. Like us if you like us if you don't. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. God bless.